there too.
Yeah, this pathway will be perfect. It'll be a lot less slick, I think.
It's a nice day, at least.
Oh yeah. Go this way?
Yeah.
Compared to the weather we've been having.
Totally. Here, I'll grab this. Hi, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Happy Friday. It is a beautiful 0 degrees type of day, which is really exciting, especially after the minus 20 below weather that we've been having.
It's been crazy. Everyone's worrying about all the bees and the critters out there in the cold weather, but the cold doesn't hurt them. They do pretty good.
No, yeah, so we're happy to be here on this walk together. It's been a while since we've gone live last.
Yeah.
And we're excited to talk about Master Academy today.
Yeah, the Master Academy coming up. I'm very, very excited about it because personally, I just want to hear all of the stories of amazing humans doing amazing things with food, with land, with bees, with conservation, and with culture. And so this year, instead of it being all about how to do things right, it's about how people are doing things that are right for them and their community, which has been wonderful. Interviewing all these speakers before they come up and join us on the live classes that we're offering all year. Yeah, I am just so excited.
Yeah. So with that being said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to just pop them into the chat and we'll answer them. But first of all, Elise, I want to ask you, what is Master Academy Wild World of Bees?
Okay, Master Academy Wild World of Bees is our opportunity to figure out technology. There we go.
Love it.
Is our opportunity to travel the world together, to connect with beekeepers, land keepers, food producers about their management practices, their strategies of connecting community, culture, and conservation. So we are all working together to really learn more about how we can learn from other people's stories, and really it's an uplifting opportunity to connect with beekeepers. So instead of being told how to do it right, instead just learning on how other people are making it work.
And I kind of want you to explain your thought process planning and envisioning this event, because it's pretty cool, because you first mentioned it back in the summer. We're both dying to travel, and we haven't been able to.
Historically, I've traveled every winter to beekeep in other countries, other places, and other operations because it's so cold here. And, you know, with COVID and with kids, I haven't been able to do that in several years. So this was an opportunity for us to really travel comfortably from our homes, our couches, our chairs, but really get an immersive experience on what it's like to be beekeeping or gardening or creating conservation projects in other places. So we're going to be traveling right away here on the 22nd to the rooftops of London to work with Alison Benjamin and learning how she's managing rooftop bee management, but it's predominantly for native bees. They do keep honeybees, but they do an enormous amount of conservation and forage production on rooftops of London. So instead of it being like what plants or how to do it to mimic it where you are, it's all about like the strategies and the structures in which they have to pursue in order to create these habitats on rooftops, and her story and experience of doing this for over a decade. So we'll be in London, then we're going to be down in LA in March with Ron Finley, talking about guerrilla gardening or gangster gardening in the LA, especially in the South Central area, where he's been a huge game changer in connecting with food and culture and really the bottom-up movement of self-sufficiency. So instead of expecting the top-down governments to change the way we engage with the land, he's taking back the boulevard and producing food for his neighborhood and for himself. And it's been a huge political thing. He was both arrested by the city of Los Angeles for vandalism on the land, but also given the key to the city of LA. So it's like he's this big mover and shaker, and he's changing the way in which we're looking at food production in cities. we are going to be all over the place. I'm so excited. There's a question here. I see.
Let's pull that up.
Yeah, let's see what it says. Oh, can you stop for a second walking? It says it's from Joe. Hey ladies, I'm 53 years old and I've been keeping a count every year of the desert bee every year, and I count less and it makes me sad and angry. That's in Muskwakus Creek, Alberta. That's near Wetaskiwin, central Alberta, south of Edmonton. Well, thanks, Joe. Yeah, I think that's the big thing is there's a lot of push for honeybees and like management of honeybees, but there's a lot of things we can do to help bees because they're a managed population. But when it comes to sweat bees, mining bees, leafcutter bees, all these solitary independent bees, it's very difficult for us to fix their problem when we aren't managing them, and we can't manage them. So you doing the work you're doing, Joe, of like surveilling or sampling and searching for them is super important, so we at least know where the baseline is. But I think that's where this Master Academy program is really important to me and important for all of us to join in on, is that it's about people like you, Joe, sharing about their experiences. So when you come into the Master Academy, we have this presenter, we have interviews, we have questions, but we're opening up the space for people to storytell themselves too as guests, so that we are all able to really learn from each other's experiences so that we can grow together. Instead of it being a right way of doing things like a bee club or a bee class, this is instead a way of us crowdsourcing and working together to find solutions to consistent problems that you have in Muskwakus, the same thing, or Muskwacheese, and the same thing that we have down here in, we'll have Tammy Horn Potter. She's presenting, and she does a whole bunch of reclamation work in coal mining in Kentucky, and about how she's creating habitat there for their native bee population. So, I mean, really, we just need to keep doing what we can as a collective human species to preserve the land and the beautiful little tiny organisms that we're all in love with. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have talked about Allison Benjamin, who's joining us this month. We've talked about Ron Finley, who will be joining us in March. Speaking of working as a collective, Elise, do you want to talk about Raphael Dall'Olio?
Oh man, so Raphael, he's presenting in February, on February 12th. So I met him when I was in Italy at a slow food conference, and he presented on the black bee. And so in his valley in Italy, in southern Italy, they have their own like subspecies endemic genetic group of bees that he keeps. There's these beautiful black bees. And the challenge they have in Italy is that to manage disease and pests, they actually use a lot of treatments. Like we're talking here in Canada, we look at 2 treatment cycles a year. They're doing 4 to 6 sometimes, depending on the region. And so he's this like heretic in this valley doing this like low management as far as chemical applications for disease with Varroa. And he's actually like done amazing work. He's got 12 years of experience with the Italian National Institute for Beekeeping, which is now the CREA. And he does honeybee research there, and he teaches mostly on genetic conservation. So he's sharing how he's doing a crowdfunded, like community-based research projects on finding wild bee colonies in this valley and then sampling these wild bees for Varroa and looking for long-term fertility and success over time. So in February, it'll not only be nice to see him again, I haven't seen him in a couple of years since I was in Italy, but to actually find out about more of his work that he's doing in his own backyard with the community there, and connecting his passion for research and conservation with hobbyists and passionate people who are like bird watching, are just really excited to look in the trees and observe and find wild colonies. It's going to be really cool in February.
All right, and what is John saying?
John says he's going to be signing up. He misses being in my bee class. John was in the level 1 beekeeping course, the online course. And he's going to be getting bees in June.
Ooh, so exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting.
We're excited to have you join us, John.
Yeah, it's going to be really good this year. I'm just really excited that, we can carry through each month throughout the year, just connecting once a month as a community, whether you watch it recorded because you can't make it to the live session, because you get them recordings within 24 hours of the live session, or if you're able to come to the live sessions, which is great because that's where the conversations are happening. But I'm really excited to help keep that energy up because it's been very isolating in the last couple of years, and we all know why, at least in my experience. And so to be able to like connect monthly with really exciting stories of vision, innovation, conservation, community, culture, that's really important to me, and it means it helps me stay excited about the work I'm doing, stay excited about the work I'm doing alone with my bees in a field by myself, and to feel like I'm a part of a community that I know I am. The ABC Bees community is pretty amazing. You guys are all amazing.
I second that. Yeah, let's continue talking about our speakers. So we've got Allison, Raphael, Ron Finley. Who do we have next?
And we have Andrew Abrams, which is really exciting. So this is on the, I want to say Colonsay. I have to talk to him in person. The Colonsay is a Scottish island off the coast of Scotland, and they have their own pure stocks of Apis mellifera mellifera. So this is like pure European honeybees. They're a dark bee, but what is amazing is that Andrew has been beekeeping for over 40 years, raising queens, and he maintains 50 to 60 unique stocks of genetics on that island of Apis mellifera mellifera to stop inbreeding. So he has this whole system of conservation on the island, and it's actually recognized in the UK and in Scotland as this wildlife reserve, exclusively protecting this endemic honeybee stocks. So it's super cool that we're going to get to not only like travel to Scotland together and really learn more about how they're managing bees off the coast of Scotland on heather, on the hillsides, but also like the importance of wild bee populations, and this is honeybee wild bee populations on these isles. And it's a tough place to be living up there. And so I'm really excited to learn more about what that looks like, how he's managing that, and he'll be on April 9th of this year. So right as our spring in the Northern Hemisphere, it'll be his spring in the Northern Hemisphere, and we'll be learning more.
I'm just going to flip this so that I can read these.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Brandon says that he'll be finishing up his first year of beekeeping in June and currently has a hive on the side of his house about 30 feet from the neighbor's front door, divided by a 6-foot fence. The house has been mostly vacant but is pending sale now. In your experience, what's the best way to approach and manage hives close to neighbors? He's also joining you for your level 1 beekeeping
course. I'm so
course.
glad you're joining me. So the trick is with neighbors is the hardest time to have bees when you have neighbors is if the neighbors are already existing and you're installing bees, because you have that orientation flight situation. So if your bees don't survive winter, you're installing bees for the first time this year there, like those bees aren't already inhabiting that space, you need to connect with your neighbors to let them know that the bees are going to be crazy for about 48 hours, where they're doing their orientation flights around the hive, around the house. Once the bees are settled and oriented there, the neighbors shouldn't even notice that you have bees, especially with your 6-foot fence. A good way of dealing with hesitant neighbors is to show up with a jar of honey. And so if you don't have your own honey, buy honey, throw it in a mason jar without a label, and bring it over as a gift. Because a gift is a great way to start a conversation. And the other option I always recommend all urban beekeepers is to have a backup hive location. So and it has to be 5 kilometers away from your current location the way a bird flies, so you can move it without having a whole bunch of drifting and lost bees when they orient back to your house. But the backup location is really important because if you have a water main break, a tree fall down, so you need siding redone in your house, any reason, that you already have an agreement with this person to move those bees to that location. The nice thing too is that good neighbors have good boundaries, but also have good relationships. So if they show up and they move in and they don't like your bees, you can always offer a compromise. My bees are here. They're going to be here all June. What if we agree that I keep the bees here after install or there for a month, and then we'll talk. And if they don't like you having bees there a month later, then you can talk about moving them to a new location. But at least it allows them to feel like they're a part of this decision. And realistically, I had this happen. I had 4 hives in a restaurant. The neighbors didn't want it. I installed the bees. I told them the bees were there. A month later, I reached out. I said, what do you think? And they said, oh, we thought you moved them off the property already. I said, no, they're still there. They looked over the fence and they're like, oh, we haven't even noticed them. Because once your bees are settled, they shouldn't notice them, especially if you provide water and you're taking good care of them and they're docile, like they're not stressed, then you shouldn't have a problem.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Brandon.
Yeah. Thanks, Brandon. One of the presentations I'm really excited about, because I've been reaching out with finding research that's exciting to me and reaching out to people I have not actually met before. Last year's Master Academy was all like my friends and people I know doing really cool work. So it was more like texting them and asking them if they want to participate. This year, I cold called Dr. Nitin Labhain, and he's from northern India in the Pune district. And his research, he's a botanist. He did a really amazing research project with Dr. Wakode, and it was on the Korku tribe, which is in the Malagat region of central North India. And that's the region where the Bengal Tiger Reserve is. And the Korku peoples are these migratory culture of indigenous peoples in northern India, one of the oldest indigenous groups of India, actually. And they have their own language, they have their own culture, everything. And they live within this Bengal Tiger Reserve. So the research is that they actually were doing this Apis dorsata, which is not Apis mellifera, it's its own species, the giant honeybee. So if you look them up, you'll see big old trees, and each tree will have like 5 or 6 colonies hanging off of the tree, or they'll be on the rocks or cliff sides hanging off, and they're size of Volkswagens, these combs sometimes. And so the peoples there always harvest the honey from these colonies. Well, and the price of honey has skyrocketed. And so the peoples, there's a lot of lost knowledge, traditional knowledge there, especially when it comes to bees. They were actually taking the entire colonies, like all the combs off, taking the whole thing, queen, brood, everything, crushing and killing the colony, harvesting the honey. And the quality of the honey was very poor because there's brood, there's all bunch of debris in it. And so they were selling it for less. But the other problem is that the honeybee population started to decrease because they weren't allowing for the colony to survive. So Dr. Wakedo and Dr. Nitin Labhain, they worked together to not only teach these people how to harvest honey off of wild colonies. So they're not forcing them to keep them in Western boxes or anything, but just showing them where the honey is stored. And so instead of harvesting the whole colony, they're harvesting just the honeycombs off of these wild colonies. They not only tripled the honey production that these individuals were able to make, but also tripled the price that they could sell the honey for because the quality was better, but they are actually harvesting more times throughout the year. And because Apis dorsata is migratory, they were seeing the migratory populations were traveling to other regions in the forest district, but they were having populations rise on these Apis dorsata populations. But the craziest dividend of this whole thing is the pollination of forest-based medicines, vegetables, and fruit went up. So food production went up, and they actually saw an immediate decline in migration out of that community. So they're actually helping the Korku people maintain culture, identity, and place by creating job security and self-sufficiency with food. So not only is it a conservation project for bees, but it's a conservation project for the forest and for the culture that lives within them, the Korku people. So I had an amazing call with them. Dr. Wakode is the leading researcher in bee research in India. He's going to be joining us too. And they're going to show videos and pictures of the people, the place, the research, the training, how Apis dorsata is organized in their honeycombs and how they harvest. I have to say, it's one of the most exciting things because I've always wanted to go to India. I've always wanted to see how indigenous cultures and groups are engaging with bees. And this kind of fits the bill for all those things for me. So if I could travel India, I would do it. But this allows for me to use the Master Academy to get there and to learn the knowledge without having to leave my house.
I'm so excited for that one. I know nothing about Apis dorsata. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really good. Even with the time change, we're going to be able to pull it off because it's a day difference when we have the call.
It'll be great. And then we also have a returning speaker from last year, Dr. Tom Seeley.
Yeah, so Dr. Tom Seeley and I were talking in this fall about how so much of the bee journals and everything is so prescriptive of how to do things, when to do things. The science even is very prescriptive. And if you've read Dr. Tom Seeley's book, whether it's like Honeybee Democracy or The Lives of Bees, those two major best-selling books, you know that Tom loves the bees, like loves the bees. And so I asked him, I said, you know, why do you do what you do? What makes you do this work? Because it's not necessarily the research, because his research is very driven by passion. And he said, you know, there's a whole bunch of unique things about bees that make him feel just awe and wonder and humbled. And so I asked him, like, could you put together a special presentation just sharing these specific traits of worker bees that really make you feel that way? And he lit up and he was like, yes, I would love to do that. So his presentation, which is happening this summer, I think we have him coming in. Let me have a quick look at my list. I've got him coming in. Oh, it's in May, so in the springtime. And he has the behavioral wonders of worker bees. And he's going to be just sharing anecdotal things that he's seen in research, that he's observed, and he's learned about with the bees that make him just tickled pink to be working with bees every day, which is really a nice honor because his expertise and his knowledge of bees is kind of crazy. He can read bees and understand their communication by their dances, which is kind of nerdy, but also a skill I wish I had. Yeah.
Okay. Who have we gone through?
And then we've got June. We've got Dr. Samuel Ramsey. And his presentations normally when he presents are all about Varroa because he's the one that did his PhD research and he learned all about how Varroa mites actually eat the liver of worker bees and continue to be parasitic through adulthood rather than assuming what we thought before, which was like 2018, that they ate the blood of bees. So actually the liver regulates hormones, all kinds of stuff. So his research was on that. That's not what he's presenting on. And he also does presentations on AAA laps, which is also, a parasite that affects bees. It's found in Southeast Asia. He's not presenting on that. He's presenting on his experience changing the beekeeping industry through having to change universities because his research was so controversial because it was opposite of what industry expected. But also being a black gay man in an industry that did not have black gay people involved in, men or women. And so he's not only a game changer in the research he's done and the industry he's in, but also just who he is not uniform to the norm. So really looking at diversity and what diversity means in nature and what diversity means in people. No, you're good. We're on a pathway and there's people using it on this beautiful day. Here, we can turn this way. There we go. Thank you. Samuel Ramsey's coming in for June, and then July. So July for me was like it's a difficult time for people to be making it on the webinars. Difficult time because everyone's beekeeping, spending time with family. But I really wanted to make sure that we had an open table, so an opportunity to have conversations and to talk to people making changes in the world when it comes to dealing with underserved communities in the beekeeping world. And so this is children, people of color, and cultural groups that normally when we go to beekeeping meetings or when we think about beekeeping, we're looking at basically white men. And so what is it like to be supporting and nurturing children and learning about bees, which is also seen as dangerous? And so we're really lucky because we have the Kawartha Junior Beekeepers, which is based on the Kawartha Lakes region in Ontario here in Canada. And they've since have a Junior Beekeepers Club has expanded into Durham region Junior Beekeepers, the Niagara region Junior Beekeepers. And they do beekeeping programming with children and Indigenous kids and kids all throughout that community. And so it's amazing that we're going to learn about what that means to their community and how that's changed and shifted and supported the conservation projects. The connection of kids and critters is always good. And then our other keynote speaker is going to be Samantha, and she owns and runs Mother's Finest Urban Farm, and that's in North Carolina. And she's, a strong woman. She's a black woman. She's farming and self-sufficiency for her and her kids. And her story around beekeeping and chickens and food production in an area where food production and the need for self-sufficiency was predominantly either left to the government to provide for us, just like most cities and places, or really set up that it wasn't really something that we should be accountable for. And so she's really leading the way into that conversation too. So that'll be our July conversation open table, and it's really just an opportunity for us to learn and share from each other in the summertime. Again, figuring out what it means to beekeep in a community, and the community includes everyone. Yeah, I'm excited about that. But that's pretty much it. We have a surprise speaker in December. We haven't decided who that's going to be, so I think we're going to open it up to a survey this summer, and people can decide like what topics or things they're interested in, and then I'll put up a list of speakers they can choose from, and we'll have a big vote.
Yeah. So some of the questions that we've gotten through our Q&A question box on Instagram and through some messages and comments are, is this webinar series just about bees or beekeeping? And you kind of answered that with the speakers.
So it's not even just about bees or beekeeping. There's 3 speakers that are specific to gardening and land conservation and use. We've got it about in native bee populations, both stingless bees and apis species of like dorsata and mellifera. We also have a speaker coming who's presenting. His name's Morgan Voyageur, and he's in Fort Chipewyan, which is a fly-in only community in the summer, and they keep bees up on the reservation there. The honey is distributed to the elders. He's going to talk about managing bees in the north, in the boreal forest, and how it's used for land recovery, and also just for a part of, again, food production and self-sufficiency. So we've got a little bit of everything. So if you're not a beekeeper, this is for you. If you are a beekeeper, you're going to love it. It's a little bit of something for everyone.
Yeah, and for those who attended Master Academy last year, what sort of differences can they expect in terms of formatting and themes, I guess?
Yeah, so the themes this year is we're really focusing on cultural references. So what is it like to be beekeeping within a cultural group, and how does that impact? We've got presentations about bee-specific things, whether it has to do with Melipona bees or apis bees, or whether it's just the worker bees, like Tom Seeley's presentation on the wonders of worker bees. And then we've got another kind of angle or construct to be talking about bees when we talk about land conservation. So that means like pollinator spaces, whether it's, reclamation of large spaces, like whether it's, post-mining production projects, or rooftop and gardening beekeeping, like in your front deck, of ways in which you can create conservation and habitat for bees. So we're changing the themes around to being more inclusive and more diverse. But the format's going to be really comfortable. So it is a Zoom format, so if you can't make it, you can get the recording in your inbox. But if you do make it, we do open it up like we did this past year, of inviting you to turn on your screen, turn on your camera, and ask questions yourself and share your story. It's a very inclusive space where we have a keynote speaker there presenting information, but it's mostly there to have you ask questions about yourself and your experience and your knowledge, and share that with us, because it's meant to be a space for all of us to grow and learn together, not just a one-sided here's knowledge, now leave and learn about it.
Perfect. And so now I'll hop back on the screen and we'll talk some logistics. But again, if you have any questions about the event, or anything really, feel free to drop those in the comments, and we'll get to them. But one question is, when are these webinars happening? I'll give you a list of dates, but the webinars will be one Saturday every month for the entire year, and they'll be at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And those dates are January 22nd, February 12th, March 12th, April 9th, May 14th, June 11th, July 9th, August 13th, September 10th, October 15th, November 12th, and December 10th. And all of those dates you can find in the link, which you should be able to see on the screen right now as you're watching.
Yeah. And I mean, the big thing is about this webinar series too, is it being on a Saturday morning. It allows for you to get yourself a nice cup of coffee and relax and nerd out about bees and all the wonders of the people and the cultures and the places that are keeping them.
Yeah, this is going to be a really exciting event, partly because it's just a great way to connect with other beekeepers and other people in the community. It's like a nice Saturday morning brunch.
Yeah, like a nice little get together. The other thing too is the ticket prices, we are making it as accessible as possible. So now we just launched it that you can subscribe to a monthly payment, which is like comes down, I think it ends up being $13 including tax Canadian. And so if you're not even paying Canadian dollars, if you're in Europe or you're in the US right now, that ends up being a really good savings. And really it's meant for us to just make sure that like everyone's able to join wherever you are, wherever you're at, and really support you in your growth and learning about this beautiful wild world of bees that we're connected to.
Yeah. And then Elise mentioned already that all of these webinars will be recorded. So if there's a Saturday that you're busy, you will get the recording the following day. And as long as you have the link to that webinar, you'll have access to it. And if you ever need any help with that, feel free to email us and we are happy to send you the link.
Definitely. And if you ever need anything at all, feel free to reach out. Both Ashley and I are super eager to support everyone where they're at this year, especially when mentorship and hands-on experience may be shortened again for another season, is to make sure that we're offering as much support as possible, whether it's management based, whether it's business based, whether it's infrastructural based, like where do I find seeds for this? I heard that this would be a good plant. Is this true? We have plant lists, we have resources. We just want to see everyone thrive, and especially when it comes to creating space for pollinators, we just want to inspire you to do what you can wherever you're at, because that's how we make the world a better place, and by doing that, it's more beautiful anyways to look at in our summer season.
Mm-hmm. And Elise, we had another question that was asked through our social media, and since you have kids, I figured you'd be able to answer this. Yeah. But is this webinar suitable for kids?
It depends on the age and it depends on the kid, right? That's the answer to most things. My kid, yes, she's 6 and a super big bee nerd, but that's kind of my curation and that sort of fact. Especially, I think if your kids aren't overwhelmed already with online learning and there's been some screen time, especially some of the presentations are going to be really excellent. There's some videos, some really interactive, beautiful photos. I highly recommend always engaging your kids when it comes to bugs in nature. So yes, it's suitable for kids. It's not like there's going to be any rated R information unless looking at bees up close gives them the creeps. Then maybe they may not like it too much.
Yeah. Me 5 years ago, this would not be the webinar for me. Me now. Yeah. I love it. Totally. Irvis is joining us from Albania. Hi, Irvis.
Hi, Irvis.
Okay, another question is... Oh, what are our questions? About our Gardening for Bees books. So we have launched a new promo where if you purchase a ticket, you get a free ebook of Gardening for Bees. And Elise, do you want to talk a little bit about the book?
Yeah, so Stacy Cedergren, a dear friend of mine, and I put together this Gardening for Bees book. It's a simplified book on different garden designs and placements for like zone 4, zone 3 kind of plantings, but it talks about different bees, tongue size, nesting blocks. It's got a little bit of everything in it. It's a little book and it comes in a digital format, so you can download it. It also comes with a really great plant list, the plant's height, whether they like full sun or not, and as well as like their color selection. Bees love specific colors based off of how they see the world. And so that comes as your bonus promo. If you register, you'll get that in your inbox too. So as you start purchasing seeds or planting your garden and creating a vision of a beautiful place for bees to be with you this summer, we can help you get there with this free Gardening for Bees book that we put together.
Yeah, and if you've already registered for the event prior to this week, you will be getting that ebook on Saturday, so tomorrow. So look out for that in your inbox.
Yeah, it's going to be really great. I'm really happy to be able to keep sharing resources to help you create, a better place for everyone.
Yeah. Okay, let's check the time here.
Can I help you?
Oh, my home screen.
Okay.
Technology's great. Oh, okay, it's 12:34. That half an hour went quick.
It sure did.
As always, time flies when you're having fun. So again, if you have any questions about the event, feel free to send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, or send us an email. We're always happy to help you.
Yeah, abcbees.ca. If you don't know, now you know. And hopefully you'll join us for the Master Academy webinar series this year. I'm very excited, and thank you for joining me today.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Happy Friday.